In a quiet village overlooking green plains that embraced the sea, lived the noble boy Arin. He spent his time watching the waves and riding horses across the golden sands. One stormy night, Arin heard a moaning sound coming from the rocks near the shore, and he went to investigate bravely. He found a beautiful white wolf, but it was soaked in blood due to a deep wound in its shoulder. The wolf didn't run. It looked at Arin with broken, painful blue eyes. Arin carefully carried the wolf in his arms, returning to his small home to bind its wounds away from prying eyes. He named him Snow and cared for him for weeks, applying medicinal herbs and feeding him by hand. Snow began to regain his strength, and a bond stronger than language grew between them. Snow followed Arin everywhere, from the wheat fields to the seashore, like his loyal white shadow. But peace didn't last. A group of massive man-eating hyenas began attacking neighboring villages. These hyenas were treacherous monsters, leaving only destruction and fear behind. Arin, looking into Snow's eyes, vowed to end this terror threatening their home. Arin began training in swordsmanship, while Snow learned to strike with the ferocity of wild wolves. They trained under the moonlight on the beach sands, mimicking attack and defense with amazing precision. Arin became a noble warrior, and Snow became a formidable force on the battlefield. On the night of the great attack, the hyenas crept into the plains, but found Arin and Snow waiting. The battle began with a brave cry from Arin and a terrifying howl from Snow. The sword gleamed in the dark, while Snow's white fur moved like lightning among the treacherous hyenas. The two friends avenged every drop of blood spilled by those monsters, chasing the hyena leader to the cliff's edge. With one strike from Arin's sword and a final leap from Snow, evil fell into the raging sea. The villagers breathed again, and safety returned to the plains. While roaming the deep forests after the war, Snow heard a familiar howl from afar. He stopped, his ears twitching with longing. He knew those voices missed since cubhood. A pack of majestic white wolves emerged from the trees, searching for their lost companion. Arin realized it was time for Snow to return to his true family in the high mountains. They shared a long look filled with respect and loyalty, understanding that friendship doesn't mean possession. Snow ran off with his pack, but stopped at the forest's edge for one last look at his human friend. Arin returned to his village alone in heart, but proud of his friend. He grew into a noble man, ruling the plains with wisdom, and his story with the wolf became a legend. Despite Snow's absence, Arin always felt the white wolf's spirit guarding him from afar. Arin married a kind-hearted girl from the village, and they built a beautiful home overlooking the shore where he found Snow. His life was full of happiness, but every winter he looked toward the snowy mountains and remembered his loyal friend. One moonlit night, while Arin sat alone in his garden, he heard a rustle. Suddenly, a massive white head and blue eyes gleaming like diamonds emerged from the darkness. It was Snow, who had traveled miles to visit his old friend and check on him in his new home. Arin ran to his friend and embraced him, finding Snow stronger and larger than before. They spent the night under the stars, Arin telling stories and the wolf responding with gestures. Snow began visiting during harvest seasons, sometimes bringing his small pups to meet the noble human. Arin's children played with the wolf pups in the plains, a scene proving peace is possible between all beings. During one visit, Snow warned Arin of a coming danger, remnant hyenas reappearing in distant mountains. Arin didn't hesitate, preparing his horse and sword to go with his wolf friend on a final journey to cleanse the land. They fought fierce battles in narrow mountain passes covered in ice, but their old harmony returned as if they had never parted, fighting as one body with two different souls. The last of the hyenas fell, and the reign of fear ended forever thanks to this legendary duo. After the battle, Arin and Snow stood atop the mountain peak, looking at the distant sea and their safe village plains. They felt complete satisfaction, having fulfilled their duty to the land and each other perfectly. Arin returned to his family, and Snow's annual visits continued like a festival the village awaited. People called Arin the Lord of Wolves, not because he owned them, but because they chose him as a friend. Years passed and Arin became a venerable old man, his hair the exact color of his friend's white fur. One day, Snow came for a quiet visit. They sat together on the beach watching the last sunset. No words were needed. Their eyes told a life story of honor, adventure, and loyalty. Villagers say Arin and Snow departed on the same night, buried in a secret place guarded by sea and mountains. Today, when the cold breeze blows from the coast, people hear a faint howl and a boy's laughter. It is the legend of Arin and the White Wolf, a pact that began with a wound and ended in eternity.